Hark the bardic paladin, who sings and plays again. He tells the tales of glory and weaves a magic story. He'll join you at your table and ask you to share a fable. Heroes of humble origin, villains who must be fought again. No matter their skill or prowess, the people in life are countless. So we pray you heed our request. Enjoy this tale of sidekicks and side quests. And side quests.
Episode 102, The Pumpkin Lady. Welcome to Sidekicks and Side Quests, the Dungeons & Dragons podcast that helps to put humans back into humanity and breathe life into your campaign NPCs with backstory and bravado. That's right, we're building a world, one character at a time. I am your host, Kurt Krenwelge, the Bardic Paladin, and I'll be joining Sam Rusk's table in the levitating platter. Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests, the best unofficial Dungeons & Dragons podcast, in my humbly biased opinion. I've got an awesome guest lined up for you this week, but before we get to my guest, I have to leave you in suspense with an ad read. That's right, from our first sponsor, Plus One EXP. You know Tony Vicenda. He is an awesome guy who's been on the show, and he is the mastermind behind this entire brand of beard balms and game design and community building. He's got beard balms named after all the basic stats from D&D, so get yourself a can, apply it to your face, smell that sweet aroma and that sweet victory that comes along with increased strength, dexterity, charisma, and more. Beards and Beyond is, of course, the indie RPG that helped to launch this entire endeavor, but Tony has collaborated and developed several other indie RPGs, including Repugnant, I Toaster, Down We Go, Through the Void, Vamnugula, and Brandstanding, to name a few. If you support Plus One EXP, either by buying something on the website, going to tonyplusone.itch.io, it all helps funnel into the Plus One Forward program, which seeks to support additional indie tabletop content creators to continue making awesome stuff. So I would highly encourage you to follow Tony and Plus One EXP on all of the socials, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and the Rockin' Sauce Discord in order to keep up with all of the various projects that are being worked on, as well as upcoming interviews, one-shots, actual plays, and some of these other amazing indie TTRPGs. If you don't mind, when you go to plus1exp.com, use that affiliate code box to type in the code Randolph when you're buying a beard balm or a beard RPG in order to get some savings on your purchase. No extra cost to you. Again, that code's Randolph at checkout on the website, plus1exp.com. Okay, with all of that out of the way, hello, mystery contestant. Would you care to introduce yourself, tell us who it is that you are, and what is it that you do?
Hi, thanks for having me on here. I'm Sam Rusk. I'm a tattooer and an illustrator, and I like to play D&D.
Awesome. Yes, I think I had seen some of your work on Twitter, and as an owner of two pieces of tattoo art on my skin, I don't want to come off as a total noob, but the style that you tend to draw, at least the Critical Role artwork that I see, is that's kind of like the Sailor Jerry Americana-esque sort of style of design.
Yeah, very American traditional inspired. I like to call it pop traditional, where it has
Okay.
more of like a nerdy pop culture reference.
Yeah, because I think the one tweet that I've seen pinned is like it looks like a big, huge ship, but then of course it's got the Ukatoa eyes going throughout it. So you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't look like a normal tattoo like I've seen before.
Yep. I like the if you know you know kind of thing. Otherwise, it looks like a traditional classic tattoo.
Awesome. And for you, what came first, the illustrating, the tattooing? Because my tattoo artist that I know came into it from a whole completely different sort of angle. So I'm just kind of curious what your journey into the tattoo art world was like.
Well, the art world, I think I've always been drawn into that just naturally. I've always been inclined to drawing and painting as a kid, and I think as you're encouraged to do that, you just get better as you get older. But as far as tattooing, I got interested in it when I was around like 13 or so, when I kind of realized like, oh my gosh, you can do that, for a living. Like, I want to do that. So I kind of pursued that a little bit and was always interested in it. And then, yeah, D&D came a little later, but I've always been into fantasy and fantasy inspired art and things like that.
The time that I remember back in college when I first started with D&D was 4th edition. That was when like all the tattooing like shows were super popular on some of those networks. So, is there like a particular artist that you like to draw inspiration from that gives you inspiration whenever you're creating your pieces of original artwork, or maybe they're Critical Role inspired, or another client comes to you and just says, "Hey, I want this thing." And you're like, "Cool, let me go into my references."
Yeah, I think as my tattoo career has gone on, I've been more into like going back towards the traditional, Americana style. Like when I started, I really wasn't, super drawn to that. I kind of like liked more illustrative things and like a little more whimsical. And then I think as I progressed as a tattooer, I was like, these are the tried and true things. They're just classic. They stand the test of time. So I feel like I started to go back to that and make designs more influenced by that, I guess.
And I know you've alluded to it with the tattooing and the D&D, so I feel like it's a pretty good segue into, do you currently or have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons before?
Yeah, me and my friends and my wife, we've been playing for 4 or 5 years now, so relatively new, I feel like, to the D&D world. But yeah, we play two campaigns that we kind of switch off, usually every other week from. My wife DMs one, and then my friend Jose DMs the other one.
Oh, interesting. So how is that dynamic, I guess, switching between the campaigns if it's like a cliffhanger and you're like, "Oh man, we have to wait like 2 weeks before we can come back to it."
I know it's good and terrible for the players, but I think it's a good break for the DMs, so they get a
Mhm.
little break to play. It's not too long of a wait. I feel like 2 weeks generally.
It sounds better than when I started in 4th edition. It was whoever thought of a cool idea for an adventure, it was their turn to be the DM. Because our original dungeon master got tired, was like, okay, I think one of you needs to come up with something. So then that kind of forced us to have to be like, okay, someone will think of an adventure. And so we rotated DMs throughout the entire group, which was
Nice.
that was an interesting exercise as well. But I like the idea of, okay, this week it's adventure A, and this week, okay, it's adventure B. And I wonder if it helps with the planning and the dynamics of the group, as far as like when you don't have to stress about campaign A while you're playing campaign B, and maybe that helps you think of like, oh, well, this is a lesson that we learned in campaign B. I wonder if it's something that we could try when we go back to the other campaign.
Yeah, I feel like as a player sometimes I'll be thinking of the other campaign, and then like, oh, maybe I should try this with this character, or But yeah, I think that it gives the DMs a little break and to think about stuff, an extra week.
Okay. And so then, as you were saying, within the last 4 or 5 years is when you started playing D&D. How soon into it, since you were starting to become part of the culture, as it were, part of the hobby, how long was it before either that inspired you to start designing flash or pieces and putting it up in your shop and saying, hey, now I do this kind of style of tattoo, or you started sharing your stuff maybe on Twitter and Instagram, and suddenly all the nerds in the area were like, well, this looks cool. You need to be the one that tattoos it on me.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, my intro to D&D was from a client who I was doing a D&D tattoo for. So we did like
Okay.
a little. It was like a D20 with a little wizard hat and a wand, and it was super fun. And I was like, I had a blast tattooing it. But she's telling me about D&D and Critical Role and all these things, and I'm like, I never have been introduced to that before. Like my 12-year-old self was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. But I never had anyone tell me about it before. So then I started watching Critical Role, and then we started playing D&D with our friends. And then, yeah, of course, like when you get stuck listening to the hours and hours and hours of Critical Role, I started doing flash designs based on those. And yeah, it just kind of snowballed and very quickly became either my whole personality and my career. I don't know, like no turning back.
I was going to say, have any of the cast or crew come your way being like, hey, we saw the designs that you've done. I want you to emblazon that on my skin as a memorial.
No celebrity tattoos yet.
Mm.
I've gotten comments from, Matt Mercer on Twitter and Sam Riegel and like a couple, it's very encouraging. I think that's actually like, that was one of the first pieces I put up, was the Ukatoa one that's pinned on my Twitter. And then Travis commented on it and I was like, oh my God, like it just kind of went a little crazy. I'd never had any art piece that I made kind of get that attention before. And I was like, oh my gosh, the nerd sweat has begun. So I think that was also a little encouraging, just to see like how cool the D&D community is, and it's just fun to make art for my campaign, other people's campaigns, Critical Role, all that stuff. It's just been a blast.
You might draw associations with like Vegas or the West Coast and the Californias, and I guess even to a degree on the East Coast and biker culture and all these things. But as we're getting now into the 2020s, it's like becoming even more pervasive for just everyone from all walks of life. Like even my mother, her mother, had tattoos. And so, like, yeah, everyone from like, the baby boomers to Gen Alpha is like getting tattoos. So I suppose business is good for you and no shortage of clients, I would reckon.
Yeah, no, it's been great. I feel like, in the 70s and 80s it was very, very, very taboo. And as we, yeah, like you said, into the 2020s, I feel like you're kind of the rebel if you don't have a tattoo, where it was vice versa.
Well, that's awesome. And of course, on this podcast, being sidekicks and side quests, we always like to ask the questions about who happens to be your favorite sidekick or your favorite NPC, whether they're from a video game or maybe one of your games that you play, campaign A, campaign B, or if not, maybe film, television, literature, etc. And why is this character your favorite sidekick, your favorite NPC?
Okay. Sidekick, I would have to say, I mean, it's the only right answer for me is Samwise Gamgee is the best sidekick ever.
Hmm.
You've probably gotten the answer before because
Oh, yeah. He's a favorite.
he's the best. As far as NPC, I wish I played more video games, but I have recently started replaying Majora's Mask, Zelda, and I do love Skull Kid in that game. I think he's a great NPC, just very mischievous, and yeah, I love the little Loki kind of characters like that.
And then same thing with the side quest question. What's been one of your favorite side quests, either from a video game, one of your tabletop games, movie, film, literature, etc.? And why is this side quest been your favorite side quest?
Okay, definitely my most recent favorite side quest was so our campaign that my buddy Jose runs. He has this character in a town that we were in. They were head of the city watch, and they told our party that like he needed us to come right away. There was a like commotion in a dungeon, like something really important. So we rushed over, and like long story short, it just turned out that he wanted us to prank his buddy into coming out and having a drink with him, and
Hmm.
it just turned into the most like the stakes were so low and it was so silly. Like I think all of the players just had an absolute blast. And like after the session, I remember I was like, Jose, that was the weirdest thing I've ever experienced playing D&D. Like it just was so out of left field. He was very like took a step back and just let us go crazy. And he was like, I wanted to just see what you guys would do in like a very low stakes situation. And it was I think it was awesome.
You
Like
didn't
if I
set the
were
whole
living,
town on fire in the process or anything like that?
no, but we almost destroyed like a whole. So the character's friend was like a scientist kind of guy who's like building these robots for the king for an army. I'm
Mhm.
doing a really bad job at explaining. It was just
Sure, classic thing, the robot army for the king, of course,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, But yeah, we almost destroyed his entire life's work just to have him come out and have a drink with his bud. I think we gave him like an existential crisis at one point, just questioning all of his life decisions, and yeah, it was really good. So I
Awesome.
don't know if that counts as a side quest, but it was a like a little side misadventure.
There we go. Sounds awesome to me. And then we'll round out the personal interview section with the question of what are you passionate about and why?
Okay, I was thinking about this. I was just talking to my wife. I was like, okay, I think I have three things: coffee, books, and tattoos. And she was like, why are those the three things? And I was like, okay, so I think, I have to have coffee in the morning. My friends know, like, whenever we're on vacation, Sam needs her coffee in the morning before you talk to me. So a good cold brew so that I can be awake to read the books, so that I can have the ideas for the tattoos.
Well, wonderful. We've learned so much about Miss Sam that I think it's time we head into a segment that I like to call NPC creation. All right. And this NPC creation is brought to you by you, the podcast audience, and our patrons from Patreon. So now is the time in the show where we give a shout out to our comfortable patrons and above with a loud hurrah. So to you, Katie Downey and Anson Jablinski and my parents, we say cheers. So again, this is for patrons who donate $2 or more a month. And all of these folks are among my highest tier wealthy level patrons. So that means they get to introduce an element of chance to our random tables, which we might get to use here today. So if you want to learn more and join the coolest Patreon out there in podcast land, why don't you check the show notes below, go to my website, or just go directly to patreon.com/sidekicks and side quests to find out more about our currently 3 tiers, $1 to $4 a month, and help us expand our operations at the Levitating Platter in this demiplane and worlds beyond. Okay, so then this segment of the show is where we get to make up a character. And so the question is, are we going to randomly generate a character with some of the tables that I have? Or do you have an idea of a character and you'd like to go through the questions and unveil who this character is?
I thought it would be fun to base a character off of an NPC that we have in one of our home games.
Okay.
If that sounds cool to you.
Okay, so we're just going to go piece by piece through the questions and we'll discover who this character is. And if you want, if you feel like you need to spice it up a little bit, we can always, do a random dice roll if you want some inspiration as well. But the first question we have, what is the character's name?
So the character's name in the campaign that we have, we lovingly named her Pumpkin Lady, and throughout the 20 or so sessions that she was in, never thought to ask her name because we had just called her Pumpkin Lady. So I think we'll just stick with Pumpkin Lady.
A mysterious figure indeed. All right. And then what is the ancestry of this pumpkin lady?
So the players aren't certain, but I would say she's probably like an archfey or something.
Hmm.
She's definitely from a plane that the players are not familiar with and have never encountered someone like her before.
Okay, interesting. So then her job or role in society is, so if she's an archfey, but she is masquerading as a pumpkin lady, so are we, like, if we go to the town market and she's there like selling her gourds, it's that's where we're gonna find her most likely, her job or role in society.
She's more of a she has nothing to do with pumpkins. It was just the instance that we met her was during a Halloween one shot, and she was just very
Hmm.
mysterious, very like kind of spooky vibes. So one of our players, our little halfling fighter, just called her Pumpkin Lady. I have no idea how it stuck so well.
So it was just the association with a Halloween or a harvest festival. She didn't actually sell pumpkins or have pumpkin
Exactly.
paraphernalia or anything like that.
No pumpkins to be found. Actually,
Interesting.
the name stuck so well that one of our players thought that she had a pumpkin head the whole time, but she has there's no pumpkins anywhere.
Hmm. Okay. And then how old would you say this pumpkin lady is?
Pretty ancient. I would say, hundreds of years old.
Okay, pretty ancient, but otherwise in her, I'm assuming, humanoid disguise. Do you think she would just appear as like a normal adult, middle-aged, older adult?
Probably, yeah, middle aged to older.
Let's see. So if we did have, I'm just circling back to the job or role in society. So the pumpkin lady is just kind of like an ironic sort of name, it seems like at this point for the character. So I'm just wondering, the NPC that we're creating, if we're to give her a job or role in society, what do you think that would be? When the player characters who are going to run into this character meet Pumpkin
Mhm.
Lady, what is she going to be doing or what does she represent in society?
So her role in the campaign that we play, she is kind of our like the party's like sponsor's not the right word, but she shows up kind of when we need her or when she needs us, and she is almost overly powerful to the point where we're just ants to her, but she needs jobs done. So she kind of
Hmm.
hires us for miscellaneous quests and like acquiring things for her, like teleportation spells and things like that she needs on this plane that she's on.
Interesting. So she'll adopt whatever humanoid disguise fits her best. She goes by seemingly this nom de plume of Pumpkin Lady, whether or not she decides to introduce pumpkins into her fashion or anything like that. But she stands as this mysterious figure who needs the help of adventurers and such to do her
Exactly.
bidding. Okay.
Yes.
So, if we're to describe her physical appearance, how are we to envision the Pumpkin Lady?
Okay, the way that we were introduced to her is she's very tall, skinny, wearing very like thin, not quite robes, but the DM equated it to a velour tracksuit, but make it medieval, and a hood. So you can only see part of her face, like like maybe just like her lower jaw, and
Okay.
she has like a little bit of hair sticking out, and her hair almost looks like snake heads.
Hmm. Just in the description alone, I'm picking up like Morticia Adams. I'm picking up the daughters in the Resident Evil game, the ones that are like the vampire bugs or whatever. But then that last bit also threw in like Medusa sort of thing. The Uma Thurman Medusa from the Percy Jackson movie is what I was thinking of.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I like that. Yeah, never clarified, but I get kind of like archfey vibes of just the mischievousness and very gray morals. Just has her
Hmm.
own needs in mind.
And is there any type of pumpkin imagery present for, or does she just drop like, oh, you can call me the pumpkin lady or something like that? She steps like into a pumpkin carriage and disappears or something.
Yeah, maybe she could have like little like pumpkiny jewelry. We can even name her something else. Like you said, you had some little. We could roll for a name. Do you have a name?
Oh, yeah, sure. This could be like the real name.
Oh, yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah, okay. So if you need a name, let's roll a d20.
All right, that's an 18.
18. Ah, okay. Well, this answer is provided by previous guest Gary Barker, Sun River's Master, if you think
Ooh,
that is an interesting name to use.
I like it.
Okay. So her code name or her title that maybe she gives out to people is the Pumpkin Lady, but in actuality, she is the archfey known as Sun River's Master.
I like it.
Okay. All right. Very cool. So with that name, does that give you like any other hints or ideas as to how she might appear outside of her particular guise she might use?
Ooh, maybe when she's not in like her super mysterious hooded outfit, maybe something more like fall colors, like goldenrods, things like that.
Hmm. So kind of like Lothlorien elven sort of a figure.
Ooh, yeah, yeah. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's like a very strong. Like yeah, like Halloween. It's like Halloween 1 second, and then it's like Thanksgiving the next.
Yeah, yeah. October 31st to November 1st.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, interesting. Okay, I like the vibe. If you had to describe Sun River's Masters, aka the Pumpkin Lady, with three adjectives, what three adjectives would you use?
Ooh, okay. Mischievous. I don't know. They're all like sneaky adjectives. I don't know what's an adjective for like she's very selfish, I guess.
Okay, selfish, self-interested. Okay.
Yeah, very self-interest, morally gray. Yeah.
So mysterious, self-interested, and morally gray.
Yeah, I think those would be accurate.
Okay, interesting. I wonder because the stated lore, as it says for Eladrin, being these elven creatures who come from the Feywild and have the ability to shift between seasonal colors. I don't exactly know how all of this different seasons coordinate, but I wonder if that has anything to play into it or not, as far as like, does she act like, so if you were to meet like an autumn Aladrin or something like that. Would that, I wonder if they would like, oh, the pumpkin lady. Like, oh, yes, we like her. Oh, she's like weird. She's not like the rest of us, Autumn Aladrin. And, but then again, she's an archfey, so they kind of have to like respect her or whatever. But I don't know.
Gotcha.
I'm
Yeah.
just curious if there's anything you're thinking might be, if there's something to that, or I'm just speaking out of turn.
No, no, no. No, I like it. I feel like, not the best at making characters. So yeah, no, I appreciate the I like to bounce ideas off of friends and stuff.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting.
Does she have like a cadre of Autumn Eladrin that serve her, maybe? Like henchmen or
Yeah,
something
I
like
would
that? She's like flanked by a squadron of Autumn Eladrin that look all, mysterious as her or something, or just very brooding and serious, or however they're
yeah,
supposed to be.
yeah, sends them off to do her deeds. No, I like that.
Suddenly, I'm getting like mafioso vibe. She rolls up in a pumpkin carriage, Autumn Eladrin that are like dark suits and sunglasses, and they open the carriage to let the players in, and they're riding around town in a pumpkin carriage, and she's giving them like a morally gray mission, and then she drops them off. Everyone's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you were talking to the pumpkin lady. Ooh, serious business."
Oh, yeah, no, I like that.
Some brewing. Maybe we're gonna get some Twitter, Instagram tattoo ideas of the pumpkin lady in her carriage. Who knows? But we
Yes.
always like to have our NPCs have something cool on them, whether that is an item, a piece of lore, a secret, or maybe even an ideal or concept that the character ascribes to. So, what is something that the pumpkin lady, Sun River's Masters, would have?
One item that is canon in our campaign is that she has access to this like teleportation dust. So she doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily have to like cast a spell or whatever to teleport, and she like sends us different places when she needs to. So at one
Hmm.
point she sends us to actually retrieve this like rock that she turns into that dust.
Oh,
So I
interesting.
thought that was a pretty cool kind of item that she had. And one of our players tried to sneak some and not give it to her when we had acquired it. And
Hmm.
there were definitely consequences to that.
Uh-oh. Was it in the astral sea or something like that, as far as where this teleportation rock dust comes from?
No, it was in, so there was like a part of these, I think it was outside of some ruins. So it was like a very old civilization that like no one had gone to in a long time. And we actually ran into a deceased party that she had previously sent there to acquire the
Mm.
same dust. So it's just very dangerous. So it's, no one else really has access to it.
Okay, so it's something from a dead empire long ago. And so this
Yeah,
was like in the age of Arcanum. Oh, we just had teleportation dust that we could just use everywhere. And then, of course, some great apocalypse or something happened, and now the world's rebuilding. And no one knows, like, oh, you just have to have like teleportation circles and teleportation magic dust. That sounds too complicated, or no one knows about it. But she
yeah.
does because she survived the apocalypse or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's kind of the vibes we got, and like we, are relatively new to working with her, so we don't really know what her history is or like how long she's had access to this stuff.
Mhm.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
And then, of course, we like all of our NPCs to be able to offer up side quests. So, what is a particular quest that the Pumpkin Lady would be willing to recruit or hire player characters to go and do on her behalf? If you need inspiration, you can always roll a d12,
Ooh.
or maybe it's to go get more of this teleportation dust or something.
Yeah, that definitely was one of the side quests that she sent us on.
Hmm.
The first side quest that she kind of forced us into was she has her own kind of like agenda that we're not really aware of. So I'm not
Hmm.
sure like how it ties into everything yet, but she sent us to the capital of this continent that we're on. They had like their version of the Olympics. So
Okay.
it's like a very sacred event. Like these people like, like train their whole lives to go. And
Hmm.
she somehow conned her way into getting us into the Olympics and basically, kind of ruining ruining the event for whatever
Oh.
ends. Yeah, so I feel like she would kind of just sneaks her parties into chaos to whatever ends to acquire things or set other things in motion.
Okay, so do you want the side quest that she offers up to be she gives you an opportunity to sneak into some sort of a prestigious event or honor or ceremony, but she needs you to ruin it or something like that instead of doing a good job?
Yeah, no, I feel like that's on brand.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, it doesn't have to be like a sporting event or something like that, but yeah, maybe like a prestigious banquet or
Yeah. A dwarven drinking contest, and you
okay,
spike
yes.
all the drinks or something like that, and then everyone it's like Ipecac in the ale or something like that. That'd be a bad time for everyone, even with the
Yes.
dwarven constitution.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
it always feels innocent in the beginning, and then the consequences unveil themselves later on.
Okay. So then what's going to be the consequence of success if you go through with this side quest and you do the thing and you ruin and tarnish the name of said event? What's going to be the reward?
I feel like whenever she rewards her party, it's always in a very, I don't know if you ever watched Here's $5, go see a Star Wars. Very like she
Oh,
doesn't
Arrested
understand
Development?
the development, yes. So very out of touch with like what the value is to something to the party in on this like plane or just reality in general.
Mhm.
She'll reward us with things, but it always feels like it's very either undervalued or super over the top.
So so it could go either way. So some pittance or something that's super overpowered that you have no business having, basically.
Yeah, I feel like it should almost be like a roll of the dice of either just something
Ooh.
so dumb or so like this is like you just acquired like a legendary weapon for ruining a drinking contest.
Mhm. Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a very fun mechanic as well. So like literally the DM sitting there rolling a dice and then like evens or odds, okay, let's figure out what you get.
Yeah.
Here's 5 gold
Here's
pieces. Go
Starla.
see a nice play.
Yeah.
Or here's a Vorpal sword.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
that's pumpkin lady vibes.
Probably get in her good graces and then she's more willing to give you perhaps other jobs and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like once you align yourself to her, you are stuck with her and you pretty much can't say no.
Especially with all the Autumn Eladrin squad that seems to flank her in Secret Service or Muscle or something like that. But now we have to consider the opposite. What's going to be the consequence of failure? Maybe they get invited to this event and they decide, no, this is our opportunity to do something awesome. So let's win this thing. And they end up winning it instead of ruining it. What's going to be the consequence of that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like whenever we have done something that displeased her, like our party,
Mhm.
she has a weird sense of revenge and like will send you messages of like, hey, don't mess with the pumpkin lady kind of mafia vibes like you were talking about.
Mhm.
She put like a tracking bracelet on one of our party members to make sure that he wasn't going out of line because he kind of sasses back to her sometimes.
Mm.
So I feel like she would do something like act like she's not upset, but the consequence would be either, I don't know, maybe like taking away like a power or an item that you already have or something like that.
I was going to say maybe like a low level curse or something like that.
Well, yeah, yeah,
Like
maybe.
archfays, I feel like are pretty good at being able to dole out like some low level curses. I don't know about pretty hefty curses, but
Yeah,
so
yeah,
inconveniences the party in some way. Maybe that means like I don't know how punishing a DM necessarily wants to be, but just something harmless enough that would be like, oh, this thing that you're supposed to be good at, well, suddenly you have to roll with disadvantage instead of just like your regular advantage or whatever.
yeah. No, I like that.
Okay, so something minor but very annoying that will affect
Yes,
the party. And
yeah,
then, so obviously, when they go to confront her about this, does she give them like another opportunity to, try and make up for it? And then, if they succeed there, okay, now the curse is off, and now we're
yeah,
sort of on an okay playing field. And if you want more jobs, then you can take them, or if not, that might be your opportunity to kind of exit out of the loop before you get drug in further.
yeah, yeah. I feel like when you would ask like for the other job or like sorry we messed up or whatever, she would act like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to put that curse on you or something like that. Like
Mhm. And then of course, now if it like is super negative, like they win the thing, they get cursed, and but they're mad and they're like, we got to teach this lady a lesson. What's the consequence of that? If they want to go murder hobo hardcore, I mean, you said she's an archfey, so it sounds like, are we gearing up for a battle with an archfey and her
Yeah.
team?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that would probably be pretty rough.
Or does she even not bother? She thinks it's funny and then she's like, "Oh, that's cute." And then does the thing where she like severely wounds them and then like that's your lesson, like, don't no more future attempts or no mercy in the future
Yeah,
or something like that.
I feel like that would be the way it went if you tried to, yeah, go for full murder hobo on her. Yeah, she would probably, yeah, leave you on the edge of death and yeah, just
Mhm.
leave, not kill you,
Yeah.
teach you a lesson.
And then maybe surely everyone at that point probably has some kind of hindrance put on them in some way,
Oh,
I imagine.
absolutely.
The
Yes.
autumn season is especially bitter for everyone in the party.
Yep.
Okay, very cool.
The best characteristic to me for her
Mhm.
is her accent is when the DM introduced her. I don't know if you've ever seen Frasier, the old '90s show, early
Well, a little
2000s.
bit, not much. It wasn't my kind of humor growing up.
Yeah, there's a character in there named BB Glazer, and she has a very almost like transatlantic accent, very very businessy. So her accent is I feel like that adds a lot to her character.
Okay, transatlantic, so that's like the 1920s radio voice?
Exactly, yeah, but like a little, yeah, like that, a little zippy and like I'm not gonna attempt to do it because I will embarrass myself.
You never cross the pumpkin lady because if you do, you
Exactly.
will get in curtains, kind of a thing.
Exactly. Thousand
Okay.
percent. It just adds so much to in our game. The pumpkin lady, just thinking about her describing, like she's like, when I said it's dark, I mean it's very dark, and it's so silly.
Awesome. Well, we've had a chance to unveil and discover Sun River's Masters, aka the Pumpkin Lady, that now I think it's time that we head into a random encounter. Dun dun. So this is the part of the show where at this point I would give you an ad read, but I don't have any sponsors at time of this recording. I might have to check some notes somewhere and see if there is something there, but if not, that's okay. If you have an affiliate program or you have something that you would like me to promote, contact me in my email, sidekicksandsidequests@gmail.com. Let me read the proposal and we'll talk. So hopefully some eccentric lord or rich lady is going to hit this bardic paladin up for some sponsorship. But that out of the way, this is the random encounter, a little bit of a vignette. We get to play some D&D, as it were. So you've done a fabulous job of describing the pumpkin lady. No transatlantic accent required. But the question becomes, what kind of scene are you interested in portraying? Are you wanting the pumpkin lady to meet one of the podcast adventurer characters? Or is this going to be the pumpkin lady perhaps talking to one of her autumn Eladrin lieutenants? Is it
Ooh.
her in a court with other archfey talking about her plans? Or I don't know, what kind of scene are you interested in showcasing her often?
I mean, the lieutenant one sounds really fun. Her talking to
Okay.
her little henchman.
We're in a elven empire city, kind of borrowing something from my home world. We'll say it is the moon elven empire, so the alabaster city, Luana. And lately, the pumpkin lady has been making a stay in the alabaster city, just white, 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 shiny everywhere. And then her pumpkin carriage stands out in the streets, almost as if to make a statement, kind of a piece of her presence in the town. And there's other visitors and other peoples and ancestries that are there in the town, but this is obviously a predominantly heavy moon elven society. But the camera zooms in as Autumn Eladrin coach driver is giving a snap of the reins, and the horses are picking up their speed. The clicking of the cobblestones underneath the wheels, and the camera goes into the carriage, and we can see that the pumpkin lady is in her full regalia, and she is speaking with one of her lieutenants, a autumn eladrin man named Aradan. How does the pumpkin lady appear as she is in her pumpkin carriage? Is she on her way to some fancy event, or what do you think she's doing?
Yeah, probably on the way to some event. Maybe she was invited and maybe she wasn't.
Aradan, looks out the windows of the carriage. He gives an affirmative nod to his mistress, and he says, all clear, my lady. Things are looking safe and good. He's very very professional and to the point. Undying loyalty and service to the pumpkin lady.
I think she would just like acknowledge him and stare out the window and maybe talk about the event that they're going to.
An opera.
Maybe they're going to the opera and maybe the mayor of this town is there and
Okay.
he has some item that she is interested in.
Mm.
So maybe she's hoping to run into either a party to have them acquire it or have her henchmen acquire something.
So then Aradan will speak up and say, I know that you are interested in the Lord Mayor's latest art piece. It would look better in my lady's collection.
I was thinking the exact same thing, she says in her transatlantic accent.
Are you wanting me to find you some help, or do you need me to see to it?
I think I think you could see to it.
Very well. Is there a particular play that you would like me to use? Shall I order him a bottle of wine and have the maiden spill it on his pantaloons so that he has to be excused to the privy? And that might be my opportunity to lift the keys.
I think that would be perfect.
Ardan is a quick study. He wants to make sure that he is doing his job well. His family has been in service of the Pumpkin Lady for generations, so he certainly doesn't want to let them down, and he wants to prove himself. Maybe even in some part of his mind, naively thinks that he loves her. Like somehow, if he could do like the best job, then she would see that he is worthy of her and could be her consort or whatever, what have you. And so he's like, okay, yes, I'll make sure that it is the most stainful kind of wine that they have available, brought to his viewing box personally.
Perfect. I feel like if she catches those vibes of him having those feelings, the more she would ignore him and
Hmm.
very silent, staring out the window, minimal contact.
Yeah, with her being an archfey, she probably has those kinds of powers. I don't know if like reading thoughts or just, she just
Okay,
has that intuition or anything. But yeah, he's trying to keep it cool. She can hear like his heart beating just a little bit quicker at the subtlest agreements or something like that. And he's trying to keep his cool and he's just trying to be as professional as he can.
I feel like she just gives her orders and very cold to her workers, whoever works under her. Minimal praise, I guess.
So then the rest of the carriage ride, which isn't probably too much longer to the Grand Opera House, will continue in silence. Aradan and his team, they are the best that the Pumpkin Lady has, and they will see to her every whim and her every need, and that she has a great time. And Aradan knows his task, going in as the cover of the escort, but then he will subtly break off and then go about the mission of ordering the wine and seeing the changing of the hands of the keys. And scene. All right. So there we go. You got to be the pumpkin lady. So how was it on this side of the table, as it were? Maybe not you being a player character encountering her, but you kind of being in her mindset as far as a NPC character.
I wish I could do her the justice as of the very talented DMs that I get to play with. But yeah, I do love her character a lot. Yeah, so thank you.
Oh, of course, not a problem. We get all kinds of characters made on this podcast, whether they are good or bad or chaotically somewhere in the middle. So yeah, now that we're starting to get into the final thoughts segment of the show, I always like to check in with the guests and see how they're doing. Did you have a nice time? Was it a good experience being on this silly little podcast?
Oh, it was awesome. Thank you so much. An absolute blast. It's always a good time to talk about D&D.
Of course, and also a good time to talk about tattoos. I know my wife was saying, "Oh, you're interviewing a tattoo artist. How soon until she convinces you to go and get another one?"
You can call your artist tomorrow, I'm sure.
We always like to leave the final moments of the show for the guests. So if there's any other critiques or comments or anything that you like to leave, certainly you can do that. And then I always want to make sure that whatever you've got to plug, where can we find you online? And, what do we need to know about? What do you care about? All that stuff. Lay it on us.
Yeah, I mean, I had a blast. Thank you so much. No, yeah, no critiques or comments I can think of. Thank you so much for putting up with me. My socials are at samurai_rusk on all of them, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that stuff.
And then is there like an art portfolio that we can look at online, like its own separate website, or we should go to those socials to be able to see your artwork to then be able to contact you to, if we can make the journey to go out and see you to, schedule an appointment.
Oh yeah, Instagram is kind of like my portfolio. I would say all my current work is on there. I try to keep it updated. And then yeah, for booking, you can email me samrusk27@yahoo.com. Yeah, pretty easy.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I want to make sure that, people know how to get in contact with you, especially those nerds who maybe have virgin skin and have never been tattooed before and they want someone that they can empathize with, who knows the hobbies that they know and, have good, I don't know if bedside manner is the term, but they have good chair side manner as they're helping to talk their clients through and let them get through the adrenaline and the needle stuff. I mean, sorry, trigger warnings, I guess, if you don't like needles, but sorry, it's part of tattooing. So,
Yeah, yeah.
don't get a tattoo if that freaks you out. But if it does interest you and you want a good place to start, I think Sam would be a perfect tattoo artist to go to.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sidekicks and Side Quests. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast through Apple Podcast, Google Play, Spotify, and Overcast, or feel free to save the RSS feed to use the app of your choice. Visit our website, sidekicksandsidequests.com, for links, write-ups of the NPCs, and to learn more about the show and the guests who have been on it. To stay up to date and interact via social media, you can follow the podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit by searching for SideKQ Podcast. I would love to talk D&D and showcase your fan art, stories of how you used our NPCs, discussions, and commentary. If you would like to hail the bard, simply send an email to sidekicksandsidequests@gmail.com. To help this show be the resource it's meant to be, I ask that you please leave a review on iTunes to help spread the word and share our podcast with your friends and family. Whether you're a veteran player or an aspiring dungeon master, or you've never played Dungeons & Dragons before, there's something here for everyone, and I want to hear about it. And finally, after 2 years, I've decided to open a Patreon for Sidekicks and Side Quests. If you love this podcast and you want to help us grow and expand our operations, I would appreciate it if you would go on over to patreon.com/sidekicks and side quests. No matter your lifestyle expenses, we have wonderful rewards at every level of Patreon membership tier. Your name on the wall of the levitating platter, a loud hurrah on the podcast, or the possibility to introduce an element of chance to NPC creation. Sidekicks and Sidequests is unofficial fan content permitted under the fan content policy, meaning I'm not approved or endorsed by Wizards. Portions of the materials used are property Wizards of the Coast, copyright Wizards of the Coast, LLC. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you at the pub next time.
Bar to rock on 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 5.